There's the nature boy for you. Hey, how you doing out there? Welcome to the Off Base Podcast, the podcast carefully crafted to remind you to suck a fat one if you think you're the only one, because you're not. I am not. I'm your host. I'm the Rocky Mountain no-name Jackass, and it's fucking freezing. It's 21 degrees in the city of Aurora at 7:51 in the a.m. on Friday. January 28th, 2022. It is going to be pizza fucking Friday. Oh, yeah. We're ordering pizza tonight. Normally I like to cook, but you know what? We're having pizza tonight. My wife's least favorite part of the podcast. I know. It's terrible. It's disgusting. It's a habit I will break one day. But let's get this show on the road. Starting off with a very, very weird sleeping pattern I had last night. I have been doing pretty goddamn well, getting probably on average 6.5 to 7.5 hours every night. But we went to bed at about 9 last night. I fucking woke up at 12:30 and could not fall back asleep. It was weird. It was very weird. 12:30 a.m. I wake up. So I've been up for about 7 hours now. Oh, people, what is my problem? Well, thank God it's Friday, because I'm going to get some sleep mañana. I mean tonight. Some good sleep tonight. The other thing that was weird about it is that we had a snowstorm yesterday, so the base was closed. Or they shut the base down at like 3 o'clock, which means they shut the gym down. And instead of going to the gym and throwing the weights around, stepson and I it was our push day, which is chest, shoulders, and tries. So we couldn't go throw the weights, so I pulled out the P90X chest, shoulders, and tries workout, and motherfucker. You know, when you change pace like that, and you do exercises that normally you don't do, and it hits the muscle groups in different ways, you're fucking sore, man. I'm sore. The good sore, not the bad sore. The good sore. So I'm the good sore, which is why it's even more baffling to me that I didn't sleep longer, because my body sure needs it. I'll tell you this much, I'm hungry as fucking shit. I already had a leftover. I got rotisserie chicken for dinner last night. And I already had a chicken breast this morning, but I'm still hungry as hell. Normally I have 4 eggs when I get home. I might have 6 today. So, here's something that is on my mind right now that I gotta try to clear the air about. Well, before I get to that, yesterday on the podcast, I said that I owed apologies to 2 people. One was my son, and the other was my wife. I predicted my son's response, but I had no prediction going on what my wife would say. My son, I was a little short with him because we forgot to do his math homework on Wednesday night. So on Thursday morning, we were rushing to get it done. And because I felt responsible and ashamed for not remembering to do it on Thursday when he was doing it, I was a little short with him. And when I picked him up from school, we were walking back to the car. I apologized to him, and I knew immediately what he was going to say. He said, don't worry about it, Dad. But I said, no. And I stopped him. I said, let me get this out. Let me apologize to you all the way. And even when I got done, he was like, it's no big deal, Dad. I was like, oh, man, this kid is so cool. The other apology was to my wife. I said to her, hey, I'm sorry I was short with you when I asked you to turn the fan on the other day. And she was like, What are you talking about? She had no idea what I was talking about. It's so funny, the things that we remember coming out of our own head versus what other people remember who were on the other side of our head. And she even said, you snapped at me the other night? And my stepdaughter goes, yeah. She remembered, but my wife did not, which is very funny. So my wife and I, here's the issue I wanted to talk about. We had a little incident this morning. I told you yesterday I was annoyed with her because now she doesn't want me to snap my fingers when I come in to say hello to her in the kitchen, which I thought I was doing out of courtesy to her so I wouldn't frighten her, because she's easily frightened in the morning when it's pitch black and silent and all of a sudden there's a figure standing next to you. So this morning, she's getting her coffee. I come in to get a refill, and instead of, I don't know. This is where I don't know if I'm too far into my own head or what. But I like to start out the day on a good note. I don't know about anybody else out there. Am I the only one, or am I just some no-name jackass? I like to start the day on a good note. So I come in, just like I do just about every morning. Come in smiling, hey, good morning. And what does she do? She immediately hits me with a complaint. Did you turn the heat up? Yeah. Can you not turn it up to 78? Our heating bill last month was $300 bucks. Okay. That was it. Our heating bill last month was $300 bucks. Well, we live in Colorado. There's that. Can I not turn it up to 78? We set this thing to 70 because the boys' room upstairs was getting super hot when we had it just at 74. So we turned it down to 70. But because I woke up as early as I did, 12:30, I was in my office, and my office is near the front of the house on the lower floor. And it's cold down there. Upstairs, for some reason, it gets really, really warm. But downstairs, right beneath my stepson's room, it's cold. And I was sitting there the whole time in the cold. I put a jacket on, because normally I can work right through it. I wasn't working. I just mean I can work through lower temperatures. But it got so cold at one point, I had my left hand in my jacket pocket, but my right hand's moving the mouse. And it got so cold that my right hand actually started to get cold. So it was like 5:15. And I went over and I turned the heat up from 70 up to 78. And she comes out at 5:30, and I was like, oh man, I only turned this thing on to 78 10 minutes ago. And I even said this to her. I said, I only turned it up like 10 minutes ago because my hand is freezing. And it's like, can't we start off the day on a cheerier note? Do we have to start out with complaining? And the other thing that cracks me up about it is, there's several things that crack me up about her saying that the heating bill is $300 last month. One is, like I just said, it's like we're in Colorado, number one. Number two, she comes home from work every day and parks in the garage. And it's an indoor garage. It's not heated. And then you walk in the door, and then there's the laundry room, and then goes right into the house. She leaves the laundry room door open every day she walks in. It's like, okay, so we're in Colorado. You leave the laundry room door open every day when you come in, and when she leaves too. And when we go on vacations, whether it's like going, when the kids were littler and we would go to Disney, she would get a hotel room that is within the resort, and we get those passes that you don't have to stand in line for. And, we reasoned through it at the time. We were like, yeah, let's pay extra for the convenience of not having to get frustrated with parking, not having to get frustrated with waiting in lines. And we end up having grand times on our vacations. Even our last one that we went for Christmas, where we went skiing. We come out of our hotel and the gondola is right there. We didn't have to stay, away from Vale Village and then drive up, pay for parking, and then find our way, to the ski lifts, carrying all our gear, blah blah blah. All that stuff, it's worth paying the extra money for the convenience of that. But for some reason, we can't pay. I don't know. There's 31 days in a month. We can't pay 31 divided by 300. That's $10 a day. 15 minutes. It's like what? 1/96th of $10. So it's like $1. It's like we can't afford an extra $1 for me to get warm. Because this is not something that I do every day. I turned the heat up because I had been up since 12:30. And I know that my wife would probably say, well, why don't you just go back to bed and get more sleep? And it's like, okay, all right. But just the starting the day with the complaints. It's draining. And I started to think about it today. I'm not saying that men don't complain. So here we go. Here comes a big gender discussion. Big, wide-ranging gender discussion. And I have absolutely zero empirical evidence for this. Zero. Okay? So if there are any ladies listening, well, first of all, if there's anybody listening, thank you. But if there are any ladies listening to this, please take this with a grain of salt. If you see things differently from your perspective, fine, I get it. But in my 47 years on the planet, my experience has been that women tend to complain more than men. And this really doesn't have anything specifically to do with the incident between my wife and I. Okay, that's separate. I just started to think about why complaining happens, or who complains more. What's the reasons behind the complaining? And it's like I'm saying, this is not necessarily a discussion to sit here and assign blame, like, oh, you guys are the worst complainers. I think it's just a theory now. Again, like I said, no empirical evidence. That it might have to do with the amount of rejection that men deal with compared to the amount of rejection that women deal with. At least in my sphere of view, because I played a lot of sports growing up, and you get rejected a lot when you're playing sports. Number one, you got to get picked for the team, and if you're not good enough, or you're too small, or blah blah blah, you don't get picked, or maybe you just get picked further down. That humbles you, right? When you go to play baseball, you don't hit a home run every time you step up to the plate. You strike out. That's humbling. But you got to get back up there. You got to keep swinging. When you go to play football, you don't run for a touchdown every time. Sometimes you might get hit for a loss and get hurt. That's humbling. You play basketball. This is probably the worst one. Is you deal with an actual rejection where you take a shot and someone else rejects it. They block it. So the amount of rejection that you deal with when you first start playing sports is massive. And I think I remember being a little kid and first being introduced to different games. I think I remember just absolutely feeling horrible about that and probably crying. But then you work through it. You start to harden. You start to toughen up. You don't complain about it. You get to a little bit further on in life, and you start hitting on girls. It's all about, again, it's the baseball analogy. It's all about the at-bats. How many times have I fucking struck out or been rejected by a woman? An enormous amount of times. Enormous. But you got to keep putting yourself out there. You get hard in that regard. You get hardened. Sorry, I didn't mean to make a sexual innuendo there. But it's a hardening process. which I think shapes the male psyche in that way. I'm not saying that women don't get rejected, but predominantly women aren't going up and approaching guys saying, hey, baby, what's your sign? Blah, blah, blah. They're not doing that. They don't experience that kind of rejection. For the most part, women growing up, and it may be different for you, may be different nowadays, but as far as I was concerned, in my sphere of influence, the average girl wasn't involved in sports. They may have been involved in athletic activities, but not necessarily competition. Now, extend that even further in my sphere of influence, where I got involved in theater. Talk about rejection again. You're going out, you're auditioning for a particular role. Nope, sorry. Now, luckily, I was lucky in that I ended up getting a lot of roles. I probably was rejected 50% of the time I went out for a role. But, contrast that to when I would go and hit on women, I was probably like 5% successful or 10% successful, So it's just the amount of rejection that I think men deal with in their lifetime is more than women. So I think what happens is that women are earlier on in that process and can still complain about rejection, whereas we don't. And I'm just using a general average guy. Not saying we don't complain. We certainly have things we complain about. I'm complaining right now, right? But in terms of what goes on between my wife and I on a daily basis, I don't have much to complain about. Really. At all. I've got a great life. I've got a solid job. I got solid kids. My wife is phenomenal. I couldn't have selected a better mate. I got great family. We got solid friends. There isn't a lot that I have to complain about. I guess my only point being is that I like to start out the day not hearing complaints. And who knows if my theory is correct or not. Like I said, no evidence. It'd be nice to do a study in my free time. But I don't know. If you think I'm wrong, that's fine. I kind of think I'm right. Because early on in my life, when something did not seem fair or I failed at something, I would certainly complain. Especially when you're like 7, 8, 9 years old, you're playing touch football with the kids in the neighborhood, somebody gets a first down, they go, oh, first down, and the kids on the other team, no, it's not first down, you didn't make it. And then, you have to concede because the person got a first down. So the next play starts, so you swallow your pride, you're like, shit, they just got a first down. But you don't say that, you keep saying, oh, you didn't get a first down, and you keep fighting it. Just shit like that. So early on, at least in my life, I had to push back. I continue to push back. But then as I get older, I don't complain as much. I don't know, it feels like women are still on the early part of the rejection side of life. Who knows? Listen, I introduce myself on this podcast every morning as the no-name Jackass. And if what I just said is Jack-assy, well then there you go. I'm living up to my name, right? All right. Well, all that being said, I'll switch gears big time here and say that I have been in the process since probably July of last year of getting back into the sports card world. And in particular, basketball. 90s basketball. Man, what a time. Because that's when I played. I played early 90s. I went to college in 94, I think. But had seen the Chicago Bulls dynasty start to emerge in 91, 92, 93. And our family loved watching basketball. That was probably our biggest sport to watch. We watch them all. My favorite sport to play is baseball. But watching basketball growing up was phenomenal. I like watching football nowadays. I can't watch basketball nowadays because of everybody who all the players who, as soon as they touch the ball, think they have to shoot it from 65 feet away from the hoop. It just drives me nuts. But back in the day, the smash mouth type of basketball that we played in the late 80s and early 90s pretty much defined that era. So I have been collecting basketball cards from the late 80s and early 90s. And I have completed my first goal. So there's a bunch of different brands of card makers out there. There's Fleer, there's Topps, Upper Deck. I don't even know what the ones are nowadays, but those were the big ones back then. I think Skybox and Hoops also started to emerge on the scene at that point in time. But I have completed my Fleer collection of 91, 92, 93 Chicago Bulls. I have completed my Topps collection of them, although Topps did not have basketball cards in 1991. But they did have the 92 and the 93 season. And I have the Upper Deck 91 season, 90-91 season, and also the 92-93 season. So the only one left for me is the Upper Deck 91-92. And I've picked up some great looking Jordan cards. Just in general, just good looking cards. It's so fun to open them fresh from the pack, fresh from the box. And to get yourself a perfectly centered card with 4 sharp corners, no imperfections on the surface at all. And I can't wait for grading prices to come down so I can get these things graded. It's really going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, the 91-92 season, the Chicago Bulls repeat season, I've got to get the last one I have on deck is the Upper Deck Upper Deck brand for that one. That season is also Shaquille O'Neal's rookie year, and I have a ton now of Shaq cards. I never really set out to collect Shaq cards, but ended up getting a ton of them while trying to collect Chicago Bulls first three-peat. After I finish getting my Upper Deck one, then I'm going to go after just some miscellaneous cards over the late 80s. I've got I'm trying to get the Lakers repeat team of, what was it, 87 and 88 when they won twice? No, it was 88 and 89. No, 87 and 88, because Detroit won 89-90. And then the Bulls were 91, 92, 93. So I've got the second part of the repeat for the Lakers. And then after I finish with the Upper Deck one, then I'll go after the first part of the repeat. And then finish off my Boston Celtics one from 86. Or is it 87? I can't even remember. It's driving me nuts now. But anyway, that's actually been a lot of fun for me to do. So I'm in the process of redistributing and narrowing down my collection, separating out all the Bulls, and putting all the Hall of Famers in specific cases, because there's some really, really great cards. One guy who I love getting two guys that I love getting their cards from. One of them is James Worthy. That guy was one of the most underrated, because he was, and pardon the pun here, the fart pun, but he was just silent but deadly on the low blocks with that quick spin move that he always had. Worthy is one. He's got some great cards out there. And Dominique Wilkins, man, fucking love Dominique. What a powerhouse. All right, I'm getting scanned. Morning, brother.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Not too shabby.
All right, have a go.
Thanks. So at the end of the day, what I'll probably end up doing is separating out the Hall of Famers and just trying to display, their entire career in cards. And the same thing with the Bulls dynasties. So once the summer of 2022 hits, then I'm going to start to go after the Chicago Bulls' second three-peat. Now, where that's going to get challenging is in the cost. So I will be mitigating that, because when the Bulls started going for three-peat number 2, a young fellow by the name of Kobe Bryant was entering the league. And if you don't know anything about sports cards, Kobe Bryant rookie cards are worth a lot of money because of his untimely death. That being said, everybody, here we are back on base. Beautiful, beautiful, clear morning, even though it's fucking freezing. We got Denver in the foreground and the Rocky Mountains in the background. I'm going to wish everybody a great weekend. Eat some pizza and enjoy yourselves as we finish off the month of January and head into February. All right, I'll smell you then.